Make some noise this weekend when NASCAR heads to Nashville Music City with our best bets for the Cup, Xfinity, and Truck Series. All this and more. It's a brand new episode of the Backroad coming right at you.
It's a non-points race, but it is a short race. Checkered flag. That's all this race
What's going on, everybody? Thanks for adding me into the show, Seth. I appreciate it. My name's Elliot Hicks. With me is Seth Woolcock, and this is the Backroad. It's In Between Media's NASCAR betting show. Seth, always a good night to be with you. We just had the Motorsports Christmas. You're back to vacation. It's a good time to be alive here.
Feeling good coming off a week away, Elliot, but I will tell you, being out of the country is a tough scene on the biggest motorsports day of the year. I mean, I'm streaming bootlegs, broadcast trying to get down there, and Prime apparently not available outside the U.S. So that was kind of news to me. Kind of had to think on the fly. Was spending watching a lot of that Coke 600 with like a nice banner on a bootleg saying, "Hey, donate here to get the full stream." 20 to go. YouTube, they found out about it. They took that off. I had to ride with like Big Dale over there on TikTok or whatever his name was, him shouting about the race and watching in-car driver cams. But it was fun, man, and excited to head back to Nashville. Can't get much worse than last year at this track, right?
Yeah, last year was nuts. And hey, all you really needed those last 20 laps was Chastain's in-car challenging for the win there and getting it done. We will look back in the rear view to the Coke 600 and all of the greatest day in motorsports, give you some news updates about what's going on in the auto racing world, or in our Horizon forecast. We will break down Nashville, and then in our parking garage props to round out the show, picks for another triple header weekend, Cup, Xfinity, and Truck Series, as well as some F1 and IndyCar, which continues as well. And the best place for you to find all of our bets and all of the fun here at IBT is in the IBT Racing family. It's our exclusive Discord, which gives you our weekly betting model access, entry into memorabilia giveaways, of which we're a little overdue to do one of those. We got to get another one of those rolling. It gives you exclusive chat access with myself, with Seth, with Rod Villagomez, our friend, with Ryan from My Fantasy Race, the expert behind all the tools, and the rest of the racing family. Shout out to everyone in there. You can get the link to that in the episode description, as well as the link for our audio edition on Apple Podcasts. And shout out to those in West Tennessee, 101.5 FM, Talking West Tennessee, 8 p.m. on Saturday nights. And if you, all that said, just a simple like and subscribe will help us a lot too, Seth.
Yeah, man, we just hit 1,500 subscribers on the channel. It's been great between here, over at the football show, the golf program, the entertainment betting show. We've been having a lot of fun, cashing a lot of tickets so far this summer, and couldn't do it without everyone who rides with us each and every weekend. Looks like we had Marcus already in the chat, 1:45 p.m. today, Elliot, asking who's everyone's pick for Nashville. Yeah, let us know down in the chat. Let us know in the comments after the fact as well who you guys are picking to win. Kush was in here at 218 saying Ryan Preece for the dub. I've heard that a couple places. Trendy pick there for you, Kush. Appreciate you being here tonight. And Andrew B right before we went live saying my money is going on Hamlin, Bell, and Elliott pre-practice and qualifying. Not a bad look there from you, from the entire IBT family, Elliott.
Yeah, not bad picks there. I was trying to find ways to get into Priest this week, Kush, but it didn't work on the stats. But we've got plenty this week to look forward to. But before we do that, we got to look back in the rear view. So before we get into the big day on Sunday, we did have Truck and Xfinity races at Charlotte as well. Corey Heim, who else takes the crown in the Truck Series race? It's their last 1.5-mile track of the season. Crazy over there.
Wow.
He's the youngest driver to 15 wins in the Truck Series. He's the dominant force. In Xfinity, William Byron dominant early, speeding penalty mid-race, ends up coming back, rebounding, getting the win, passing Allgaier, who was on old tires. Sammy Smith got DQ'd from 5th place, but a couple of good races as a primer for the big day Sunday there at Charlotte.
Yeah, that was another Saturday race where I thought for a second we might be cashing the the just absolute gainer we placed on Connor Zilic to begin the season, over 1.5 wins. He has a good run there on Saturday. Gator once again and goes out and does it. And these were some races, Elliot, that I'm kind of glad I wasn't able to be a part of, because I was gone on Sunday, had to have all my bets in before I left. And because I would have been heavy on Gator to win this race. And William Byron, though, pulls it out. That's his first win in the lower series since 2022. So will he be back on top, and had a lot of momentum heading into Sunday?
Yeah, no doubt about it. You want to talk about bad beats? I had P2 in all 3 Cup Xfinity and Cup Series. Didn't work out for me
Do you
there.
have top fives? Any top 3 action on him?
Yeah, I was able to get top 5 for Zilic, so that was nice at least. But then the big day Sunday, it made up for it. My F1 bet of the week last week was Lando Norris, fastest qualifier, and win the race. I'm standing in the middle of an Ollie's Bargain Outlet shopping for rugs on Saturday. Lando Norris takes the pole in Monaco, and I knew I had that bet won. Sure enough, I did. Monaco was Monaco, and Lando took the win there. Indy 500, Larson's double did not go well on either side of it. But Alex Palou, who else in IndyCar too, able to get the win and cash you a ticket there. And then in the Cup Series, it was William Byron's dominant day after Larson wiped out again and a few other drivers. But Ross Chastain, I would say, comes out of nowhere, but had a really good car all night. Moved up from the very back of the field to take the win. First driver in about 50 years to start last on merit, not from being sent to the back because of a penalty, but to start last and win the race. Heck of a drive from your guy Chastain.
Yeah, I guess we have to start there, man. I mean, the race itself was brilliant. Ross doesn't seemingly come out of nowhere, but was a top 10 car all day. Seemed to have a lot of speed late in the run. And man, those last 30 or so laps when Hamlin kind of falls out of it, then has to go down pit road, and it's just Chastain tracking down William Byron. It was some of the best racing you're going to see. Charlotte, what a performance this track has done. I think it was a couple years ago that we were all maybe a little bit tired of it before we got into the next gen era. Now it's like, hey, I'm good on the Roval, brother. Like, let's get here. Let's bring this championship race here as well. I mean, great race. And Ross Chastain, is there a better wheelman when it comes to just pure skill? Because we've talked about it. This Trackhouse Club has not had a ton of speed in these race cars so far this season, Elliott. But Ross, goes up, passes a Hendrick car, one that had dominated the entire race, and it makes it one of the most popular races we've seen so far this season.
Yeah, and hey, the Prime broadcast too really was a treat for all that you got to watch.
We got to talk about that too. Yeah. We got to talk about that because your guy Dale Jr. and the boys, man, they put on an absolute show.
Yeah, it was impressive for sure. Made it a lot more fun to watch. Got a 90% in the Was It a Good Race poll from Jeff Gluck. The racing certainly didn't hurt. The Trackhouse guys, I mean, we saw it if you watch practice before Chastain crashed that car and was unable to make a qualifying lap. He was top of the charts in the 5-lap, 10-lap averages, all those things you look for outside a single lap speed to determine who was good. It was unfortunate when he wiped out, but that team puts in all the work. It's been talked about ad nauseum. Yeah. They put in the work, they stay up half the night, and they get that car to victory lane. Well-deserved victory there for Chastain. In terms of my other bets, I didn't hit an outright. Got the Briscoe top Toyota at 12-1, which I shouted out in the Discord. Thanks to Denny's pit crew, not filling up that car. Briscoe ends up there. I hit a couple matchups. Barry over Logano. Neither of them were competitive, which surprised me. And then Bell over Larson, just thanks to Larson's misfortune there. In the F1 race, too, I also had Leclerc to finish second, and that worked out pretty well. But for you, Seth, even though it was your biggest hit of the weekend and maybe your only hit of the weekend, getting the Indy 500 outright is definitely a special feeling.
Dude, 2 years in a row, man, we've been on the winner, and Alex Palou goes out there and, maybe didn't have necessarily the best car all day, but he made the right move when it counted, right? Like, I think everyone was expecting that move, including his competitor, to happen later in the race. We had that lapped car, those 2 lap cars that were kind of, or about to go lap down right in front of those guys, kind of blocking them. So we weren't able to see a true slingshot move. But Palou kind of catches everyone off guard, makes the move early, and then drives off into the sunset. And yeah, to hit that outright 6-1, we placed that on Sunday going into qualifying, into the last leg of qualifying. That is, it put me up 6 units for the week. So very happy about that. And man, there isn't a better spectacle. Like we're NASCAR fans, right? But at the same time, there are very few spectacles as great as the Indy 500. And we saw it once again on Sunday, despite a little bit of treachery to begin that race. Shout out Scott McLaughlin. Kyle, I'm too happy about that one.
Yeah, I mean, that's a tough situation with the rain again and Scott McLaughlin just kind of wiping out there. And hey, you're up in units for the week. I had all those bets win, but I bet enough that, hey, I bet triple digits and lost 72 cents. So I'm calling it. I broke even for the week, and I'm
Yeah,
calling
baby.
it a success to only lose a handful of change.
Hey, dude, man, that's the name of the game here, right? Like, I wasn't on last week, but I got cleaned up at the All-Star race a little bit. So, what the NASCAR gods take, you can you certainly win yourself back as well, and to have an even week. Especially, I saw your card. I saw your card on Sunday in the Discord. I was like, man, that's a juicy card. I mean, it was meaty. It was a meat like. I know McDonald's, you can get like the super size. That was like a super size card, my friend. That definitely.
Yeah, hey, the greatest weekend in racing for maybe the last time is Monaco. Probably going to move off of that Memorial Day weekend. You got to go big or go home. So went big, only lost some pocket change, and we're coming right back to it this week. A little bit of smaller card. Of
Yeah.
course.
Yeah. We'll talk about it. How to get creative this week for sure. All I want to say is F1. If you come to North America on the weekend of the Indy 500, if we're gonna do this thing up north here, just be ready for me to throw a fit. Be ready for a lot of people to throw a fit. Like that weekend, that day is really the Indy 500. I know the Coke 600 was absolutely epic as well, but I mean, we got to show a little bit of respect out there. I will be up in arms about that. Stay over. Like Monaco's a spectacle itself. You don't watch for the racing. You really watch for like the drone shots over top of everything. But they can have that. Stay out of North America, baby.
I would argue with you, but Circuit Gilles Villeneuve up there in Montreal does put on good racing, whatever series.
I ain't saying it. I'm not saying it doesn't. It's disrespectful though, right?
F1 thinks they're the kings, so we'll go with it. But hey, we'll hear some more F1 and IndyCar bets a little later in the show, as well as NASCAR, of which the big story came out today from our boys Jeff Gluck and Jordan Bianchi over at The Athletic. The France family planned to field a car under the Spire banner, but it was probably going to be a Hendrick prepared car. They were going to field the car at Sonoma for one of their IMSA drivers. So the France family owns Action Express over in IMSA. Jack Aitken was going to drive that car at Sonoma in about a month's time here, whenever that is, early July, I think. It started going around the garage. Other team owners expressed some dissent, so they end up scrapping the plan. But it's a big story. We had rumored a couple of months ago, there was a rumor that came out.
Yep.
Maybe the France family is going to try to field some cars here. They gave it a shot, but I think it's the wrong time to do it, especially with all the controversy we've seen in Indy with Penske fielding cars and owning the series. France family trying to go in and fund a car, even though a guy who's never raced in NASCAR before, technically under a Spire banner that still, only has a couple of wins under their belt, definitely was going to be tough for them to do much. But in any case, probably good to set this to the side for now, at least.
Yeah, right now when you have a lawsuit going and a lot of people upset with you, I don't think this is the time for it. You had brought this up preseason that, hey, maybe they're potentially looking to get someone like Daniel Hemrick into a season-long car to just kind of see, hey, what are the logistics to actually run this, to maybe use that as some evidence for one of these cases. And, at first when I heard that, I was like, all right, Elliott's going down with his Instagram NASCAR rabbit holes or something. But hey, looks like there was some legs to it after all. The Athletic boys sniffing this one out as usual. So not super surprised. I would definitely be more surprised if I hadn't heard it from, the rumor mill earlier this year. But I mean, this is probably where it's going to go eventually, right? Like if the France family is going to concede on some of these things that the NASCAR teams want, I think we should just be prepared for this. And it definitely will be something like IndyCar where, hey, when you're caught cheating, like Roger Penske, I mean, you and Rod said it best, like if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. But at the same time, man, like there's going to be all eyes on you.
Yeah, and I mean, I feel like this is going to happen. It's kind of inevitable at some point with all the things that are going around. The France family is going to pull this off. And I mean, it's a thing that does happen. I know my first job was working at a local drag racing track, and they would put cars in the field that were owned by the people who own the track, that if they would go out there and try to win, that way you don't have to give your pay to somebody else. You keep it in the family. That would be the case there if this guy would go out and do pretty well. But put the kibosh on it for Sonoma. After Sonoma, you do have Watkins Glen and the Roval, if you want to put him out there on another road course. But for now, definitely put to the side. But it is interesting to watch because, like I said, something that is probably in the realm of possibility and naturally something that they've been wanting to do all year.
Do you think it would always be one of their IMSA drivers they're looking to field, or does NASCAR have like a golden child you think that they would turn to and look to potentially partner this with?
I mean, it makes sense to, when you put your toes in the water, to run those road course ringers, but there are guys, if they wanted to ever do it full time, say that these teams lose the lawsuit, NASCAR gets charters in their hands. There are guys out there. I mean, we've been saying it, and everyone's been saying it all year. Why is Corey Heim not in a Cup car? Go and race for Team France and NASCAR and get yourself in the Cup Series, right?
Yeah, they gotta have someone in their back pocket. I'm trying to think, like, if Jimmy didn't already own a team, I would think Jimmy would be like the golden child. Same with like maybe you'd get a reunion tour with Jeff Gordon or something, but they already have ties to other teams, so I don't think you would see something like that. But there's definitely someone out there. Like I don't know who it would be, but there's someone who would Casey Kane. I don't know what the relationship is. Like Carl Edwards would be sweet, but we know that like him and NASCAR. No, like that ain't jiving. I could see maybe a Casey Kane situation, which would be sweet.
Yeah, I mean, if Kane's departure from the Cup Series was kind of a health thing, so that probably wouldn't work.
Right.
Carl Edwards back at the track, though, with Prime. That was fun to watch, too. He and Corey LaJoie, some pretty good analysis there alongside Daniel Trotta pre- and post-race.
Yeah, dude, having like an actual pre-race there kind of gave me like college football vibes. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't know if you saw this either, but they went live about 15 minutes before they went live, and they just had drone shots and camera shots of just all the activity on the track. It was really cool to watch. So tune in a little early, and you'll be able to see, drone shots or the blimp shot, or hey, this is what the fans are doing. This is what pit road looks like if you've never been there before race or never really paid attention. Other than the grid walk with Fox, this gives you a really good view of the pre-race hubbub.
Absolutely.
All right, so some other news that we'll just kind of run through here. Speaking of the France family and people involved with NASCAR, they've said increasing horsepower could be on the table and could happen at short tracks as soon as later this year. Don't know if there's going to be much of a difference from going to the 600s, 700s up to whatever they're going to go to. But I mean, I think it's worth a shot. They have to do something to get better on short tracks.
Yeah, this is another thing that, we've kind of been clamoring at for a while. I think the entire NASCAR community has, but kind of weird to make this shift in the middle of a season. I don't love that. That's something maybe I would like to see some more testing in the off season. Maybe this was something to try out the All-Star race, right? Like there are certainly avenues that we had a Busch Light Clash earlier this year. Like there are a lot of different ways we could have gone about this. It feels a little F1 gimmicky kind of to make this type of change in the middle of the season. But regardless, we need to save the short tracks. I mean, we saw it earlier this season out in the desert where hey, we have some option tires. You can run different. Like that was one of the best short tracks we've seen in a while. So we got to do something. I know a lot of people don't think the tires is good for the sport and doing stuff with that. So maybe it's just upping the horsepower, but definitely interesting timing and very NASCAR-ish, if I could say so myself, Elliot.
Yeah, and hey, we've seen them use regular season races as testing opportunities for the option tire and things like that. Going to Richmond in a couple of months where they threw the option tire out last year and made for some entertainment. So winding up the horsepower there. When we're getting to the Mexico City race here in a couple of weeks, just in the news because it's pretty neat. We're going to Mexico City. I mentioned this last week. Daniel Suarez was rumored to be in the JRM number 9 with Quaker State sponsorship. That is official now. That starting field for the Xfinity race is going to be up to 40 cars, same as the Cup Series. But the teams that are using P39 and P40 will be ineligible for points and prize money and all those sort of things. It almost feels like that's kind of going to be a detriment to the smaller teams who are going to get in on owner points. Maybe you'll get lucky and one of the big teams guys won't set a good lap, have to get in on owner points, and you won't take away from the Joey Gases, Tommy Joe Martins, Mike Harmons of the world there. In terms of Cup, there has not been an open exemption provisional requested, so no big names from outside of the world of NASCAR are going to enter that race either, it seems like.
I was hoping maybe, this would open the door for some of these potential Indy F1 drivers, someone like that, maybe even just some of these more supercar drivers to get in on the action down in Mexico. But looks like we'll have, the normal 36. I think Zilich will be in that Cup Series race as well. So still plenty of action. Am I wrong on Zilich?
I was thinking that, but I don't remember. He very well could be. And if he's not, he should be. Let's just say that.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, Chris Buescher, the penalty that he had a couple of weeks ago, the only change was they reduced it from 60 to 30 points. It does put him a little closer to the cut line on points, but they still lost the 5 playoff points. Crew chief suspension was already served, so that's kind of out the window. $75,000 fine to the team. And more field stuff. When we get to Chicago in July, Colleague is going to field the number 13 for Will Brown, Supercars driver who has run a handful of times. I know he ran the 33 a couple of years back in the Indy Road course, I believe. And it's rumored Cam Waters, another Supercars driver who ran the 60 car at one of the road courses last year for Roush in the 60 car, is supposed to run the Rick Ware number 15 is the rumor. So at least some more ringers there. They're trying to see if they can catch the SVG magic twice, but I'm just hoping for a dry race there, and then we'll see what happens.
Yeah, always good to see these supercar drivers coming over. And, I would have loved if we could have potentially seen someone like Will Brown in some more elite equipment. But Colleague's been fast. Colleague's been fast. And, I don't expect much from Cam Waters if he is in this race after all. Also, shout out to our guy, Dylan Coyle, over there, part of the Colleague PR team. He put together that Will Brown video. I saw a Facebook post from him talking about how he kind of got put in a spot and had to put it together. That was a pretty good little video, man. So shout out Dylan. I thought that was a good one, and good to see Will Brown back in action here very shortly as well.
Yeah, that's neat. I'll have to go check out that video. Shout out to all the PR teams that put in some good work there in the garages. We'll be with you in a few short weeks in Pocono. Really looking forward to that too. But before we get there, let's go ahead and start looking ahead to Nashville and tonight's Horizon forecast.
Hey, Michael, it was only 20% chance of rain. I think we got all 20.
All right, so as we look ahead to the weekend in the Music City, entry list-wise, the Cup Series, your 36 charters, plus JJ Yaley in the Fanatic Sportsbook sponsored number 44 there that you see on your screen, going to run at Nashville and at Phoenix at the end of the year. Chad Fincham will be in the 66. Corey Heim getting another race in the 67. Ran top 15, I think, definitely top 20 at Kansas, so that'll be fun to watch. Over in Xfinity, Ross Chastain going to go for the double in the 9-car. Corey Day in the Hendrick 17. Almirola is back in the 19. He's a big favorite this week. Jeffrey Earnhardt in the 24. Myatt Snyder in the 91. In the Truck Series, if you can count William Sawalich as a special entry in the 1-car or in the 1 truck, then go for it. Kyle Busch in the 07. Not a great couple of weeks for him in the Truck Series. Corey Day will be in the 7. Luke Fenhouse in the ThorSport 66. All starts out with truck practice and qualifying on Friday, 4:05 p.m. on FS1. And then the truck race, the Rackley Roofing 200. Stage lengths 45, 50, and 55 at 8 o'clock Friday night. On Saturday, you got your Xfinity practice and qualifying starting at 2:05 Eastern. I love the night racing. We're going to have night races across the board. Cup practice and qualifying not starting off until 4:30. It's on Prime just like the race. And then the Tennessee Lottery 250, the Xfinity Series race on the CW, 7:30 p.m. 45, 45, and 98 are your stage lengths for that one. And then on Sunday, the Cracker Barrel 400 Cup Series race on Amazon Prime. 90, 95, and 115. Love Cracker Barrel getting back in the sport. I said my first job was at a local drag strip. Second job, high school and college, was washing dishes at Cracker Barrel. So shout out to the Barrel this weekend, sponsoring the Cup Series race.
Nice. Heck yeah. I kind of worked at like an off-brand Cracker Barrel also in high school. It's called the Dutch Pantry, right off I-80 there in Clearfield. And yeah, kind of got that similar vibe, but great times over there at the Dutch, man. So yeah, good to see Cracker Barrel back in this, and great to see some night racing, man. Like, you know me, Ellie, like I'm never one to start a race on time usually. So giving me more leeway, especially because I love the prime coverage. I want to be in there early. This makes it great for me and great for, I just think the common man, dude, and the common woman who are out there like being productive, during the day on the weekends. And I know you just moved. I'm getting ready to move as well. So certainly helps lend to that a little bit.
Yeah, no doubt about it. For me, though, I'll probably be parked in front of the TV, but I've got a free weekend, one of my first in a couple months. So we're going to enjoy the heck out of this Nashville weekend for sure. Nashville Superspeedway recently back onto the schedule, sat dormant for about 10 years, but then from 2021 to present, been on the schedule for all 3 series. 1.33 mile concrete intermediate, very unique track. It is the longest concrete track on the circuit. Makes it kind of a mix between Dover, which is another large-ish, but still that race is more short tracky. It also matches other high-speed mile-and-a-halves. When you look at our main comps, Dover, I would say, is the primary because they're both concrete intermediates. But like I said, they race a little differently. And in our IBT model this week, we use Charlotte, Kansas, Texas, Las Vegas, your traditional mile-and-a-halves as our secondary comps. How do you think this place is going to race? Because I think it's certainly going to be a hybrid. And I'm primarily looking at Nashville data for this race above all else.
Yeah, it's so tricky because last year's Nashville race was also a hullabaloo at the end, right? Like there was so much mayhem and craziness that was happening with all the restarts and the overtimes. And so I agree. I definitely did favor Nashville metrics the most, but I certainly did look at some of these other high speed mile and a halves. And I do agree with you. Dover is the closest one to the comps. But the hard thing about Dover is we haven't been there in over a year, right? So we were pulling in 2024 data, which isn't as relevant. So this is like a harder race to handicap. I'm going to be honest with you. I think it's a harder race to handicap, especially coming off that wild race last season. So this is one that I'm keeping my cards a little bit closer to the vest. I still have some plays I like, but definitely scaling back a little bit here pre-practice and qualifying, and definitely tuning in on Saturday to see what we unload like.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more. My card right now is less than half of what it was last weekend. So definitely scaling back a bit there. And yeah, last year was such chaos. I've never used the loop data more in my projections rather than the finish because it was just jumbled up throughout the field. That race last year ran 31 additional laps from the start, longest or most amount of overtimes that we've had in the Cup Series. Like I said, kind of like Charlotte last week, where it's almost a relatively new track with the next gen. We've only run once here in the 3 years, and then only once in 2021 with the old gen cars. When we look at qualifying here, as we crack open the trends for the week, definitely important. We've seen Kyle Larson has the best average starting position at 4.75. We also have Denny Hamlin, William Byron, Joey Logano, and Chase Elliott, all averaging top 10 starts in the 4 races that we've had. In terms of the next-gen polls, Denny Hamlin has been on top twice in 2022 and 24. Ross Chastain won from the poll in 2023. Back in 2021, Aric Almirola was on the poll, which is why he's such a favorite when you get to the Xfinity Series race. In terms of the other years, we had Kyle Larson win it from P5 in 2021, Chase Elliott from P4 in 22. Like I mentioned, Chastain from the pole in 23. Joey Logano last year, again, in the absolute mess of a race. He started down in 26th. Looking at Denny Hamlin, who was on his way to winning that race before the mess last year. He started P11. So either way, that still would have been coming from as far back as anyone has in the field. Do you think that means qualifying is a little less important this weekend, or still thinking that you kind of have to start near the front? As we said, P11 would be the furthest back in straight up races since we've been back here.
Yeah, if I'm placing it outright, I'm hoping my driver is P15 or better, right? That's kind of how I'm playing this one. Hamlin's a guy we're going to talk about a lot tonight, and he's someone that I think if you want in on him, you should probably be getting in on him early. I think he's pretty motivated coming off last week's mishap as well, and so yeah, I certainly agree with that, and hopefully we can see some people unload fast. Like qualifying's been a little weird lately, man. Like we've had some weird like not pole winners, but just I feel like a lot of Chase Elliott's been pretty mid qualifying this year. The Trackhouse boys been pretty mid qualifying this year. It feels like we haven't got a lot of speed off the truck from Penske on these recent intermediates as well. So it's certainly been interesting, but I think the Toyotas are the ones to definitely bet early here, given the recent history right off the truck.
Yeah, and the crazy thing is too is I feel like we're more sensitive and dependent on if you go out early, your lap time is screwed. If you go out late, you have a better chance to win the pole. I feel like that's been more of a topic of conversation this year than it ever has been. So those guys who match up well in the metric, finished well, ran well in the most recent race, also going to have the advantage to run well next race as well. Toyota, as you mentioned, the 2 poles, but no wins here. Chevrolet has won 3 of 4. Of course, last year with Denny Hamlin, it might have been a little different. In terms of finishing positions, in terms of consistency, Kyle Larson and Chastain each have 3 top 5s here in the 4 races.
Wow.
They've traditionally run really well. In Chastain, too, you can we'll talk about him in a minute. I don't want to spoil the next segment here. Larson has 4 top 10s, so he's 4 for 4 in running in the top 10. Bell, Logano, and Chastain with 3 top 10s. You also have Chase Elliott, Denny Hamlin, Ryan Blaney, William Byron with multiple top 10s. But that's only a handful of the field, so we've had a lot of diversity in the top 10 as the time has gone on. Best average finish, Kyle Larson. Who else? 4.5. Joey Logano, 9.75. And then you dip outside the top 10. This was pretty intriguing. He didn't run the 2021 race, but AJ Allmendinger has run the 3 next gen and is 5th among the active in average finishing position at 13.3. Definitely a guy we'll hear about later, like we mentioned with Colleague.
Yeah, certainly.
All right, so one more stat for you. The averages of leaders and lead changes per race that I averaged out because there have been so few races here. We're averaging 8.75 leaders per race and 18.25 lead changes. Those numbers don't seem too far off to me, and it does show that you normally don't have a lot of the craziness like you did last year. The dominant guys and the guys who are going to run up front are probably going to be there most of the day.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure I saw whether it was at BetRivers or Caesars. I think the line for lead changes is 18 flat. So it definitely makes sense and kind of in line with the averages there.
Yeah, I'm sure the books have definitely run the numbers too, just like we do here. One more number that we've got for you before we get into the bets is the ifantasyrace.com Asterisk Mark Driver of the Week. Take it away, Seth.
Yeah, guys, if you haven't checked out ifantasyrace.com yet, what are you doing? Make sure you're getting over there. It's how we get prepped, how we get our betting projections ready each and every single week. Ryan and his staff do a great job. And this week, our driver of the week when it comes to the asterisk marks is Ross Chastain, coming off a Coke 600 win. And Ross had a great car here to close out that summer race at Nashville, but he finished 33rd at the end of regulation. Ross was in second, but then during that first overtime, he wrecked, which led to this asterisk mark result. So there's plenty of asterisk marks from last year's 5 overtime thriller. Hamlin, he was on his way to victory. We had that outright on the card. So that was a pretty tough beat. And Bell also had a lot of speed kind of during the middle segment of that race as well. Got back in the field on strategy, ends up crashing out. So I'm thinking that was more of an outlier because it's generally not the type of racing we see at Nashville. Things kind of just got a little chaotic there. But Ross Chastain, along with Hamlin and Bell, a couple of these guys who are asterisk marks, had speed, just didn't get the finishes last year in Music City.
Yeah, you see there Marcus shouting out Christopher Bell, pretty dominant early last year, but then ran into trouble. I wanted to shout out one of our normal commenters as well, Stan, attending his first ever NASCAR race this weekend. My sister, my daughter, and I will be leaving Louisiana tomorrow morning, hoping to witness his guy Kyle Busch's epic win. Shout out, Stan. Hope you enjoy your time there in Nashville. And it really is fun to get to the track, especially the access that we've been able to have at Pocono the last couple of years and at Dover. You certainly don't do it justice. The best way to get new people into NASCAR, take them to the track, let them hear those motors run, and it's a good time for sure.
Yeah, dude, I was talking over the last week with my family. They were asking like, oh, I've been to a lot of Steeler games. I've been to some cool concerts. They're like, what is the coolest like thing of that variety that you've been to? And I was like, man, like nothing beats your first NASCAR race. Like I won't forget just like pulling up there with a case of Busch Light and a cooler and hanging out the top row and watching Pocono for the first time as a fan. And then to kind of see it from the other side of the fence as a media member these last couple of years has been really cool as well. And dude, there's nothing like it. So Stan, shout out to you, buddy. Hope you enjoy your race. Hope all your bets cash as well. And hope you and the family have a safe time back and forth.
Yeah, man, I hope Kyle Busch gets it done for him. I don't know that we've got him much on the betting card this week, but that's something I haven't felt. To see your driver win in person has definitely got to be even cooler than being out there. Maybe I'll get lucky at Pocono this year. We'll have to see in a couple of weeks. That'll be a fun time. We've got some special stuff that'll be coming out planned for you for there. Like I said, we're going to have a lot of fun with it. But we're going to have a lot of fun breaking down tonight's parking garage props as well. What do you say? Let's get to the bets.
Let's do it.
Taking a look at the books this week, do you have any major impressions that stood out to you, Seth?
No, I mean, it was tough. Honestly, I thought it was a pretty tough week to find a lot of value pre-flop, Elliot. I felt like I really had to get creative down there because there isn't a lot of consistent, like, you know me, I like trends. I like consistent drivers when it comes to wagering my cold hard cash. And there's not a ton of consistent drivers on this track other than some of the guys we've already talked about earlier.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like you said, it is a lot harder to handicap too. We kind of run a nice little run there, 3.5 miles that all raced very similarly to each other. Texas, Kansas, and Charlotte all together with the All-Star in the middle, but that was kind of separate anyway. Now we're kind of making a shift to one of the more unique circuits, and it's not even like a road course where you can say, okay, let's look at other road course prowess. If you're going to be good making lefts and rights here, there, you're probably going to be good at it everywhere. Nashville kind of races all its own. So like I said, I looked at Nashville stats more than anything else. And the guy I'm going with this week to lead it off, we've already talked about him a good bit tonight. Let's keep rolling on the Ross Chastain train. It is Busch Light country down there in Nashville, and it is Ross Chastain country too. This is a golden chance for a back-to-back. We don't see it super often. Christopher Bell spoiled us with 3 in a row. We've had Larson do it. Ross Chastain going back-to-back. He's 7th in our model, which is almost kind of low for how good he's been at Nashville. Like I mentioned, the 3 races before last year, P2, P5, and then the P1 from the pole in 23, before going for it in that first overtime last year, ends up crashing out and ends up at the back of the field in the 20s by the time the chaos was all over there. And it really seems like Trackhouse has fixed their issues on Saturday too. Like I said, Chastain was one of the better cars in practice, when you looked at the inner data before he ends up crashing it. They rebuild the car, still goes out there and wins the race.
Yeah.
So clearly Trackhouse has found some speed in there. And very quietly, we've seen it. In the last 9 races in 2025, Chastain has been in the top 7 in 6 of those.
Oh, wow.
Trackhouse is really starting to show out very quietly. We've seen it most with Chastain, who I think we all would agree is the most well-rounded and talented driver there. Chastain's certainly the guy that I've got my eye on first for the win.
Yeah, I agree. I do like Ross this weekend. He'll definitely be in some of my fantasy lineups. I've already been trying to see what I can build around him. And the thing you got to like about him, number 2 in the Nashville Next Gen Total Speed Rankings coming from iFantasyRace.com. Top 5 in driver rating from last week at Charlotte. Goes on to win that race. Also top 3 in driver rating at Kansas a couple weeks ago. Like, you look back at his Texas stats, not nearly as good. He was okay at Las Vegas, like still within the top 11 in average running position. But like you said, like they're on an upward climb now. And so I don't mind riding that high with Ross a little bit. He's got a lot of confidence coming off the biggest win of his career. I just don't love the number of 12-1 when we are just, I talked to our guy Bob Bodner earlier today. I think he hit a 20-1 on him pre-flop last week. I know our guy Trav in the Discord as well. I think he hit him something like 16, 18-1 during that race, something like that. So just feels short, but that's where Ross really should have been all year long, just based on the type of driver he was. But the equipment just hasn't been there, before the last month or so.
Yeah, and I do understand that it definitely is a number we wouldn't have paid for Ross before the last couple of weeks, but being able to win at Charlotte, seeing Trackhouse on an upward trajectory, and having Nashville be arguably one of his best tracks,
True.
I'm okay with the 12-1. But Andrew brings up a good point in our chat here. Do you think we can wait if he doesn't qualify well? I think that it is probably worth the risk, but with that Saturday speed kind of out of the way, we don't know how well he would have qualified with that car had he not crashed in practice and was unable to turn a lap last week in Charlotte.
Yeah, that's a very, very good point. And it's been funny because we've even seen Ross have practice speed other races too, but he doesn't like the new format I don't like the new format. I'm just going to say that. Kind of like what we had like pre-Pocono last year. I thought that was pretty sick. And but here's the risk. Started 20th last season, started on the pole the year he won in 23, started 7th in 2022. So I would say, I think he's going to start top 15. So I don't know if it's going to get much better than 12-1. It might, but it might not be a lot better. And there's a chance that he qualifies top 5, and we're looking at a 9-1, 8-1 Sunday morning.
Yeah, and I think part of what will help him qualify further toward the front too is being able to go out as late as possible. I think he probably will be, if not the last driver out, the second or third to last driver out. Qualifying worse because he would finish pretty poorly. I mean, tracks like Homestead where they just ran terribly. You're going to go out early. You're not going to set out a good lap. But Ross, I don't have those numbers in front of me. Probably will be in the last 3 to 5 drivers to go out and qualify, which will certainly help his lap.
Yeah, Andrew also saying Trackhouse based out of Nashville, even more incentive. Got a lot of sponsors up there. Tootsie's always rocking down there on Broadway as well. I know that's one of their big partners. So
the SVG is in the Red Bull car, so it's a race that's definitely important to Trackhouse and those boys.
Yeah. Too. Yeah, absolutely. Nick weighing in. What's up, Nick? Good to see you tonight, buddy. Saying he thinks that either Hamlin or Chastain will win Nashville. Well, Elliot, I think that's a great time to transition to my heavy outright of the weekend. I'm going Denny Hamlin 6-1 at FanDuel. I went just under 1.5 units, 1.4 units for me. And the base of most of my plays this week is Denny Hamlin. I think between him and Kyle Larson, look, these motivation factors really have been good to us this season, whether it's been people coming off DQs or just bad beats. Yeah. Generally, they have good weeks the week after. And I don't think anyone more than Denny Hamlin is looking to stick one to his pit crew after kind of, boning him last week. And also was second in average running position last week, 5.0 laps led 53. And that was big for me because honestly, Denny's kind of struggled a little bit on the 1.5 miles this season. Just be in terms of average running position, but it's been his car's always way off or something, or he gets into trouble, something happens. So he's had a lot of weird fluky things go wrong with him at 1.5 miles this season. But when looking at Nashville specifically, coming off that fast race at Charlotte last year, had the best average running position in the field, 4.5. And at the same time, also had the most laps led or most laps inside the top 15, 99.1. Even with the chaos, he was still somewhat able to survive. It didn't get the top 10 he deserved, but was still right there. Third in next gen average finishing here as well, 7.0. And also by a wide margin, first in the total speed rankings in that span as well. So he's had the speed. Outside of last year, he's had the finishes. I think he'll put it all together here and potentially walk away with a well-deserved trophy down there in the Music City.
Yeah, you're right. With Hamlin this year, it really has just been stuff that he's run into. Really, not of his own doing. You know, a couple of issues with mile and a half. Really impressed me at Charlotte, as well as some of these other tracks. They've had a lot of raw speed lately. That's something good. And like you said, the 2 poles here, they've got the raw speed here. If they're not going to finish out front, I'll kind of skip around a little bit here because my bet is Denny Hamlin for a top 5.
Yeah.
I think he's going to run up front. They were just outright numbers I liked better. Won Dover last year when we were there in April. So our closest comp track, he's been able to do well in the concrete. Like you said, I think P2 in the model, 6th, 3rd, and 12th were pretty good finishes at Nashville in the next gen. 2 poles here. Has led 70 or more laps in all 3 of those next gen races, 114, 81, and 70. And like you said, last week, challenge for the win. Fuel trouble, not enough gas in the tank, finishes further back. Kansas, lightning fast car. I mean, you saw him carve through the field, but then the clutch trouble finally pretty much destroys the transaxle trying to come off pit road there. So in terms of Hamlin, with the numbers, I'm not as comfortable on the outright, but I do like the top 5 number there. My other outright for the week, I'm going to go with Chase Elliott. I was able to lock this down on I think Tuesday evening at 20-1 over on BetMGM. This is now all the way down to 11-1 on BetMGM, and the best number you can get now is 16-1. In terms of Chase Elliott, 3rd in the model. He was not great last year here. Average running position at P12 before finishing P18. Like we said, though, 1 in 2022 was P4 in 2023 when Chastain won. We know that the Hendrick cars have the speed. Even if the 9 team doesn't have race winning speed week in and week out, pretty quietly finished P6 at the Coke 600. We know a couple of guys in the top 10 did have some trouble, which helped them a lot. But this team, I mean, they've been catching so much flack from all the fans. Obviously, most popular driver. If your guy's not winning every week, there's going to be a bunch of people that you hear about. Hey, why aren't you winning every week? You're with a crew chief that's been around forever. You're the former champion. You're with the best team. You can't win every week, but this team has been able to put together consistently strong finishes. I think that can be rewarded on a week like this, especially, like I said, an 11-1. I don't know that I like it. A 16-1, I'm thinking about it. A 20-1 slam dunk on the 9 car. Thankful I got that number a couple of days ago before it got bet down.
Yeah, that wouldn't feel bad at all. Like Chase is very high in the projections this week, 3rd, and like there's a pretty big gap behind that top tier of him, Denny, and Larson as far as the modeling goes. Like, so I don't mind a 20-1. I think that's a good number you got him on, and I would be afraid of Chase Elliott probably if it wasn't for that run he had a couple weeks ago in Kansas where he led 29 laps, right? Like that was the first time all season we're like, wow, like at least like on an intermediate that I was like, dang, Chase actually has some freaking speed here a little bit to get it after it. And yeah, so after seeing that, I do have more confidence in Chase. I wish we would have saw a little bit more from him in the 600 because it just feels like every week pretty much he's still a lot of times the 4th Hendrick car.
Yeah. And we know those Hendrick setups last week were definitely a little on edge. We saw both Larson and Bowman crash in stage 1 just because they couldn't set with the bumps. William Byron, of course, had his probably a little easier drive and was able to lead a lot of laps. Chase Elliott probably was somewhere in between, probably adjusted his car to be more like Byron, saying, hey, I don't want to crash too. And again, was able to take advantage and get a decent finish there. Yeah. Like I said, it's definitely risky to go with an outright, especially in an 11-1 for a guy who we've really only seen up front in that Kansas race before his pit crew screwed him over and put him back in the field. And you just can't pass at most of these tracks when you're that far back in the field. So it's risky, but we were just talking about Hamlin has had troubles. Chastain's pit crew ranked in the mid-20s heading into last week. So it's every driver has risk factor for sure.
One more outright for me. It's Chris Buescher, 30-1 at BetRivers. I'm going half a unit on this. And look, I was like, you saw me, Elliot. I was workshopping all day today trying to figure a way to get Chris Buescher on my card. Do I go with the plus 125 top 10 out there? Do I do the matchup versus him and Brad head-to-head? I also saw one with him and Ty Gibbs head-to-head. I've gone back and forth all day with it, and I just settled on the outright, and I think that's the only way I'm going to be playing him this week. But there's a lot to like about Chris Buescher. He just hasn't really had the finishes that I think he's deserved a lot of times this season. He's 6th in the betting projections this week. Finished 5th last year in this race, 4th best in average running position as well, 10.5. 11th in the next gen total speed rankings at Nashville. He just doesn't have great finishes at Nashville. That's kind of what like pulled me off of totally getting invested with like a top 10 or a ladder or something like that. But I mean, you look at what he's done though. He's been a top 10 car at these intermediates so far this season, top 10 in average running position at 3 of 4 comps this year. Last week at Charlotte, 13.4 average running position, Kansas 9.7, Texas 13.1. So he's been right there, man. I still have a championship future on Buescher, 40-1. I thought I was getting early season value, which I did, but now I've seen it opened up to 40-1 everywhere. So it's kind of a dead ticket in the water, but I'm still holding out hope for it. So Chris Buescher, like this is one of the tracks I think he can win at, man. He likes concrete. He likes Dover. He didn't perform well at Dover last year, but I know going into Dover last year, you and I were both heavy on him.
Yeah, he was definitely excited. He said he really enjoyed the place, even with a little bit of the chill that was in the air there.
Yeah,
he was a big fan of Dover. And with RFK, it's just so tough because you see all these guys have speed once in a while, but it's really tough for them to put together consistent runs. I know qualifying has kind of been a struggle. They haven't been able. It'll be, they'll put one car in the top 10, one car around 17th, and another one will qualify in the 30s. And when a guy like Ryan Preece has been your most consistent car, someone brought up Preece in the comments earlier. I don't want to say it's concerning for Keselowski and Buescher, but it definitely shows the team is well-rounded, but maybe not necessarily in a good way. As you see Nick there shouting out a top 10 for Ryan Preece again. I was looking in Preece, but the stats just weren't there for me. And I don't know that they're there for Buescher either, but kind of like with Chase Elliott at a 20-1, at a 30-1, I really like the 17 car.
Yeah, that's pretty much the thing. Like he's 6th in our projections, and he's like what the 13th, 14th highest driver. Like Brad Keselowski has shorter odds than him at some books. That just makes no sense considering what we've seen from Brad or even like Chase Briscoe at this point. So I just think you're getting a little bit of a value on Buescher. I don't know if we're seeing 30-1 after the fact of qualifying on Saturday.
Yeah, unless he has that Roush car that ends up in the 30s, which will be in trouble. Andrew saying in the comments, I always ought to bet Chase on concrete, not comments, but comments for the 9 there. That makes me feel a little better. And Stan bringing up a good point here with Chastain's winning the bag. Will Suarez get the best car from Trackhouse? Here's my tinfoil hat with Trackhouse. I think they're going to continue to spread it even, but I think in Mexico City in a couple weeks, that 99 is going to be just absolutely on rails. They're going to try to make him the fastest car there, as well as SVG, of course. I wouldn't strongly bet on Chastain when we get to Mexico City in a couple weeks. It certainly is possible, but in this case, with Chastain being so good at Nashville, I don't know that they're going to take away from him in that sense.
I just think, like, in general, like Trackhouse's engineering is a little bit behind everyone, that they don't have like the choice to like, oh, we're going to put more effort into this guy's car this week. Like you can do that, I think, when you have a lot of resources and you're at an HMS or Team Penske, maybe a JGR. When you're just trying to, not swing and get 30th at Homestead, like Chastain earlier did this year, like I just don't think they're going into the week saying, hey, we're going to give this guy more. And I think they know, based on the contract situations, the sponsors, like Chastain's the man. Like he just won the Coke 600. He's the guy that, like, Trackhouse is going to be lucky to hang on to him in the next 3 to 5 years, because with all the backing he has from both the agriculture world and now the bevy world as well, like Chastain's one of the hottest commodities I think out there in the NASCAR Cup Series right now.
And it's tough because I agree with that too. And I agree with everybody who says, hey, maybe if Trackhouse doesn't improve, this guy should find a better ride. We've seen this with Kyle Busch. There's not really a better ride out there, especially heading into next year.
There could
really
be
nowhere you there's
that little 48 car in a couple years.
But for next year, there's nowhere you can move. In years in the future, contracts can expire. We can see guys jump. We can see surprise retirements, all that. For next year, though, as we said, with Kyle Busch kind of re-upping with RCR, throwing his hands up in the air, saying, I don't really have any better choice. I got to stay in this 8 car. And then we'll figure it out.
Denny could retire in a couple of years too,
or go over to 2311. We never got to see Dale Earnhardt run for DEI. Maybe you see Hamlin run over there. Stan saying he might jump on the Suarez top 10 at plus 550. Bob throwing out some odds in the comments as well. Ryan Preece at 40-1. AJ Allmendinger 125-1.
Let's talk about Dinger. Throw your bet up, because I got a lot of frustration I need to talk about with this. But just give me your analysis back, Bob, because I also had a soft spot for Dinger this week.
Yeah, initially heading into the show, this was a squad ride before we adjusted some of the bets that we had to pick out here. But hey, if you want to, you can talk about him second. I'll introduce it. He's 18th in the model, not super great, but they've had some sneaky speed on the intermediates this year. He was great all last week. Was great in practice. Really surprising qualifying run. Ran up front all night. Ends up with a P4 in the Coke 600. I mean, he's won. He's obviously got a couple wins. He's got impressive runs. It may have been in the top 10 races in AJ Allmendinger's career. That was an absolutely unbelievable run for he and Colleague there at the Coke 600. And like I mentioned, 5th best average finish in the field at Nashville, 13.3. Finished P10, P11 the last 2 years. Probably benefited a little bit from the chaos last year, but still was not running too bad. And I think he was 19th in 22 till he do a pretty solid average finish. Again, back and forth on the other intermediates. Vegas and Homestead. Homestead's not really a strong comparable, but P8 and P7 there. Had a crash at Texas. Had the engine blow right away at Kansas. Couldn't really tell what he could do there. So it's definitely a riskier bet, but I like the top 10s that you can really throw out there, get some good plus money on, and kind of stack throughout the field. Plus 260 over at Caesars. It was surprising that Caesars had some of the best placement prop numbers. Normally, they're one of the juicier books out there. So that was nice to see as well. Caesars getting a good bet for Allmendinger.
Yeah, first of all, I don't know what happened over at Caesars, but like their book has just gone into the trash lately. Like I was looking to bet like a potential Quinella this week on Larson and Hamlin. They used to be the book to do it. Can't do that anymore. Like interface is garbage. They don't have the same listings they used to. So that's a bummer. Like come on, Caesars, get it together a little bit. That's
what I've found. If you have Bet365 available, that they've got really good numbers and they've got a million things you can bet. I know here in Pennsylvania, thankfully we do have it, but
yeah,
that's the book you want to watch. I throw out multiple numbers every week from Bet365. Only within the last year that's become legal in PA. I don't know where all it is legal, but it's an advantage that we're definitely taking advantage of here in the Keystone State.
Yeah, I'll have to certainly look there for some Quinellas. But so frustrating thing about AJ Allmendinger. So I put the first draft of the projections today together, and AJ Allmendinger came out 11th. But I had I sorted it wrong in some numbers, so I was like, oh my god, he's 11th, and he was plus 450 at FanDuel this morning for a top 10, plus 450. He was also 100-1 on the outright as well. I was about to place them both. And then I resorted it. I figured out my error. And then he came in 18th. And I was a little bit, slow to pull the trigger. Around lunchtime, I was like, I'm in. I'm back in. Like, I rethought about the Coke 600 and how good he was. How, top 4 in average running position. I mean, was on an absolute rocket there. And just had speed at really all of these intermediate tracks for the most part. So I was bummed I missed that, and FanDuel took him from 100 to 50-1. They nuked the top 10 line. So I was out. I'm still going to play him in fantasy, but I do like AJ Allmendinger. I just need to have a quicker pull there. But with that said, Elliot, I bet on AJ Allmendinger probably maybe 5 or 6 times in the last year heavily. And 2 of those times, one the Daytona 500, another time being an Xfinity road course, he just blows up. Or has his radio goes out or something stupid happens. So I could totally see Colleague after maybe one of the best runs in their organization history, just giving him an absolute lemon again.
Yeah, I mean, you never know with Colleague. They are definitely frequent to taking a dump occasionally, but I'm liking the momentum, just like I'm liking the momentum over at Legacy Motor Club. I know it didn't work really well for Jimmy Johnson last week. Ends up getting caught up in a crash after there were good vibes. They qualified in the top 20, celebrating the 700 starts, didn't work out. We saw some really good racing, though, from the Legacy guys and some good qualifying. I like both of their top 10 numbers this week, and it is Bet365 that does give me the best numbers there. I'll note, though, if you are looking for Exacta versus Quinella, Bet365 lists that as straight forecast and dual forecast.
Okay.
So that'll be what you're looking out for, and shout out to anyone
Good
there,
looks.
too. They've got those numbers. Like I said, the positive momentum across the board for the Legacy boys. It's been tough because sometimes they have the qualifying speed and the race speed doesn't go well. Sometimes they don't have the qualifying speed, but the race speed goes well, and they do kind of flip back and forth. But they both have had some positives of late. Erik Jones at Nashville, too. P11, P18 in 22 and 23. Had mechanical issues last year that knocked him back. Has had some good runs on the intermediates. P5 at Texas. P13 at Charlotte. Mid-race, he was around 8th best. Average running position was 14th there. JHN, we saw him run top 5 for a good portion of the night early on.
Bro.
Really good qualifying run. And that 42 was really on rails. Ran really great. Mid-race was 5th best average running position and 12th in total. Finished P27. That we were so focused on the Chastain and Byron and Hamlin battle. I don't know what happened to him. I don't remember. But ends up 27th. but he's good at Nashville too. Won last year in Xfinity, and he's only had one cup race here, and it was not a very good finish last year. Like I said, overall, feels like at least one of these guys is either going to be really good qualifying, really good in race. You can go either way. That's kind of why I grouped them together. JHN's number is great, 14-1. On the other books, he's 9, 10, 11-1. Erik Jones kind of around 4, 5, 6-1 for a top 10. I rolled with him. I've rolled with him a couple of times the last couple of weeks. Hit JHN a few weeks ago at something like 10-1 or 12-1. I'm going back to him. I got a little sprinkle on both of these numbers here for Legacy Motor Club.
Yeah, if I'm taking one, I'm taking the JHN number. JHN has just been a little bit faster lately. And last week, I was going to play my fantasy lineup, and I did some Sunday morning adjustments, and I needed to find a way to put Byron in my lineup after what I saw from him on Saturday. So booted JHN out, and the whole first stage, I'm sitting there like, oh my gosh, like this might be the fastest I've ever seen him run in the Cup Series. So great run for him. Legacy is building a little bit of momentum here. You think they're probably building out their notebook a little bit, getting better at some of these tracks in the Toyota manufacturing club over there. So yeah, I don't hate that. Like JHN right now, IBT grade this week up 34%. That's still 31st in the projections. But here's the thing, like JHN most weeks is like not good. Like we're talking 20%, maybe 18%. So to get him up at 34%, ain't a bad number for him right now. So I really don't hate this. Like the numbers at Nashville are atrocious in the next gen era. So you have to keep that in mind, but also really good here in Xfinity and truck, but has a win down in those lower series here in Nashville. So obviously has some pedigree here. And I might honestly squad ride that one with you. Just a little sprinkle on that. I like that a lot.
Yeah, and you mentioned some of the model stats. I certainly don't want to talk down on the model. That's not what I'm doing here. But for a situation like JHN, where we threw in a lot of different, like I said, stats from Charlotte, Las Vegas, Texas, because we've already been there this year. What's the other one? Kansas, where you're going to have mixed runs there, and this certainly has been the case for JHN.
But he's getting better at all of them, man. Like
he's getting better at all of them, and only has that one race that did not go well last year. Which I know if I'm going heavily on track history, maybe that's not so good. But like you said, the lower series is run better. And with some of those younger drivers, or even a guy like Allmendinger, who was kind of back and forth at some starts like that, it's something you have to keep in mind when you look at this model. Generally, if you're seeing it on the free side with the top 10 preview that I give out Friday mornings on in-freemedia.com, those guys generally, of course, they're top of the top. You're going to have all the model stats in there, and they're going to look good across the board. But when you get down into the mid-teens, 20s, maybe even the 30s, definitely keep some asterisk mark sort of things in mind when you look down there, because sometimes it doesn't tell the whole story, or it throws in some parts of the story that may not be quite as relevant. If I'm thinking that Texas and Kansas are going to race a lot more different than Nashville, maybe I'm not worried about those stats as much when I look at them in the model.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at it too, like Austin Dillon 7-1 for a top 10, I'd rather take JHN. Erik Jones 6-1, I'd rather take JHN. Zane Smith 5-1 after that goofy finish last year, rather take JHN at 14-1. Like, yeah, I just think he's mispriced, honestly. So not a bad look. And he was also 14-1. I saw earlier today on FanDuel. That's already been bet down to 10-1. So he's taking action on it.
Yeah, and like I said, most other books somewhere around 9, 10, 11-1, able to get that 14-1 on Bet365. There, my guys. I'm really enjoying betting there for sure. But like I said, shout out to all the books. We're playing against the books. We don't want to give too much love to the books. We've got to remember.
It's a war, baby. It's that's the thing I've said. I always love about the NASCAR betting community, because like it's not us versus other bettors. It's not us versus other creators. It's like all of us as a community against these greedy books, baby. That's what we do out here at the Backroad. We take them down.
Yeah, some books are just less greedy than others. Including, like I said, so I threw out two outrights this week. Chase Elliott and Ross Chastain. They're matched up together at a lot of books. And Chase Elliott, of course, is the underdog compared to the favorite. The best number you can find on it, if you're taking the 9 side, is at Bet365. They have Chase at +120 and Ross down at -150. If you do it at BetRivers, it's Chase +103 and Chastain -134. But if you're wanting to go the Chastain side of this, BetMGM is probably your place to go. They've got Chase at -110 and Ross at -120. Like I said, if you want the one side, your best odds probably going to be at MGM. Bet365, your best odds for Chase. It should be a battle at the front. We know Chastain's probably going to run top 6, 7, 8, probably on the low end, unless Trackhouse really throws out a stinker. And we know that Chase Elliott and Hendrick Motorsports, they're going to have a couple of guys running up front. You never know kind of which two it'll be that have the more dominant cars than the other two. but I like Chase in this baby blue Kelly Blue Book car you see there. Like I said, even if they're not consistent in the running and in the finishes, it's also a hedge kind of too, because I've got more on the Chastain than the
Yeah.
Chase Elliott. If I like them both, it really covers the risk of the occasional Ross Chastain or the Trackhouse tomfoolery that you occasionally see. I like a little bit of coverage here from a driver that I like, again, only more than anyone else in the field, only behind Ross, who I'm betting against in this matchup.
You do this all the time, Elliot, where you like find these matchups where I'm uncomfortable betting them myself because they are very like two drivers I like this week a lot.
Mhm.
But with that being said, Chase Elliott third in the projections, Ross Chastain seventh. Again, a little bit of an asterisk coming in for Ross last week, so they should be closer. But Chase Elliott should not be the underdog to the point where he's plus 120. So you always do this where I can't bet it myself because I'm uncomfortable because I like them both a lot. But there's value there because the one should not be, a heavy dog. So I think you did once again here.
Yeah, and it's just about finding the best price
Yep.
too. If it was the minus 110, minus 120 that you see on MGM, I
Yeah.
know that I love either side there. But
Yeah.
Chase Elliott at plus 120. Sometimes it's about playing the number. I did that last week with a few.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, my Austin Dillon 100 to 1 didn't pay out. But I would have been better off with the top 10 with how well he ran. But either way, play the numbers.
Yep. We got a couple specials to round out the Cup Series.
Yep. Yeah. So one of the fun bets, spinning that roulette wheel, get the winning number. Winning number under 11.5 was at plus 135 on Caesars. I think out of the normal winning number assets that they give you, this was the best number, which really surprised me because it gives you my two favorites that we've been talking about all night, Chase Elliott and Ross Chastain. Gives you arguably the two most perennial winners in the Cup Series in the next gen era, Kyle Larson and Denny Hamlin. Gives you three really solid potential upsets, Austin Cindric, Brad Keselowski, and Kyle Busch, all of whom have an okay enough chance to win. And it gives you some crazy ones in case we get another 5 overtime thriller. You still have the Dillon brothers, Justin Haley and Noah Gragson, who Noah Gragson ran pretty well, at least in the early part of the race. I don't know where he ended up. He could have fallen off as well, but ran pretty consistently top 10 in the first half of this race. It gives you, like I said, some really good numbers here, some really good potential upsets. I don't always bet these numbers. I know this is normally Rod's territory, kind of. I know he bets them a lot, but you got to take advantage of them where you can get them. I like spinning that roulette wheel and having it land low this weekend.
Yeah, I was loving the winning card numbers earlier this season. I have a great track record with it. We as a program do, and I was looking at potentially like going odd because you get Larson, you get Hamlin, you get Elliott, kind of same type of guys.
You get Ross. I don't know if you mentioned.
Yeah, Ross. Yeah, you just don't get like there are some guys like okay, maybe Byron, maybe Logano, something weird could happen.
Blaney,
Bell, yeah. So like. But yeah, I actually don't hate this. This isn't bad, honestly. This is a good way to get exposure to really four guys who are ranked inside the top 10 of the projection. So I don't hate it at all. And I think like you're really only getting beat here if Bell or Logano, maybe a Buescher, come out with this win.
Yeah, it could be Byron too, or some of those further down in the field. So I got a lot of the individual bets this week. Like you said, juicy card, kind of juicy week, tough to handicap.
Yeah.
You've got some fun parlays this week. Let's start off with your first one here that combines some Cup and Xfinity numbers.
Yeah, it's my Jim's Big Time Summer Parlay of the week, presented by Busch Light Apple, unofficial, of course. But hey, always open to that sponsorship out there from our friends at Busch Light.
Hey man, I loved what Ross Chastain said. That could have come right out of your mouth. He likes drinking beer. He likes drinking Busch Light, and he'd be drinking the Busch Light even if they weren't a sponsorship. So if we should put that in the intro to the program when we redo it here.
Yes, absolutely. So Jim's Big Time Summer Parlay of the week, presented by Busch Light Apple, 2.5 units down for me. Leg one, Denny Hamlin, top 10. And like I almost felt comfortable enough to bet the Denny Hamlin top 5, Elliot. But I guess the reason I didn't want to go all in is like purely because of like the weird issues he's had at some of these comp tracks this season, where I think even if there's like a little bit of a mishap, he could still probably get himself back in a top 10 contention. And he's been up there. We talked about him enough. But leg 2 of this parlay, it's Justin Allgaier for Saturday's race in the Xfinity Series, top 5, minus 250. This is going to give us combined odds of minus 133 at DraftKings. So just a safer way, in my opinion, to instead of going with the Denny Hamlin top 5 at plus money. I'm also really heavy on Gator this weekend. There's not many ways to get invested with him. He won this race back in 2022, ran top 10 most of last year's race as well. However, it's really about the comps for me when it comes to the Xfinity Series. started third, led the second most laps at Dover last year when we were at that race. Elliott, 39 laps in that race. Rain kind of came, messed up his strategy. He pitted at the wrong time, didn't get the finish he deserves. This year at comps, won, dominated Las Vegas. The only one who had anything for him was Erik Almirola. Started second, led the most laps at Texas, was on his way to beating Kyle Larson before some bad luck hit him there, and then got fourth and led the most laps last week at Charlotte as well. So I feel really safe with Justin Allgaier as long as pianos don't fall on him and Denny Hamlin. We're riding this big time summertime parlay of the week.
Yeah, and you never know with Allgaier though. It's a good parlay to have, but it's also kind of a high risk parlay because Denny Hamlin's had the troubles, and Justin Allgaier, you never know when they can pull strategy out of thin air. I mean, last week I'm pretty sure I saw they were trying to call him to pit road, and he just stayed out. I don't know if it was his decision or something like that. There was something lost in translation there where that just didn't work. But also, if you're just going on raw speed, it's the perfect parlay, and you pick just like Busch Light Apple. The perfect way to dilute some of that juice is with a little bit of that Busch Light. So it's a good combo all the way down to minus 133. I like it a lot.
And if you want to get a little riskier, if you take that top 5 from Allgaier, you make it a top 3, you go over to BetRivers, you can get this up to like plus 185. So I'll probably maybe be taking a little bit, that'll be like my lethal Busch Light Apple parlay of the week. But yeah, a little more ice in that drink.
Yeah, you want to talk about lethal or a little bit more bite to it. It's Busch Light Lime coming out next month.
Yeah, we'll see.
We'll see. Bite in it.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, enough about beer. Let's get back to the bets. We cracked open the Xfinity. We know that Almirola is a big favorite. We know we've got a lot of guys in the field that are big favorites.
Gator, Chastain.
Yeah, Gator. Yeah, I forgot Ross Chastain. He's who I was trying to think of. I knew there was a Cup ringer. I was going to say Kyle Busch. No, he's the Truck Series. He doesn't do Xfinity anymore. Step outside the odds a little bit. You get some good value on some of these Xfinity regulars. Call me crazy, but Austin Hill at 14-1. I like what I'm seeing here. I know it's not a super speedway, so betting on the super speedway merchant can be a little difficult. Like I said, the books love your Chastains. They love your Almirolas. Won the pole in the Cup Series in 21, but hasn't raced in Xfinity going all the way back to 2011 in the JRM number 88. Shout out Ragu and Grand Touring Vodka, who sponsored those cars that year for him. Hill is the favorite outside the favorites at this number. I was looking for this number, and like I said, I was surprised. Caesars had it best because I've seen it 10, 11, 12-1 elsewhere. I like it at 14-1. In Nashville, he's been pretty solid. Hasn't gotten a checkered flag here yet. Has a top 10 finish in one truck race back with Hattori. Has a P9 with Hattori also in his Xfinity debut here in 2021. And then in that RCR number 21, P8, and then 2 P4s in a row. He's a guy who is right up there with kind of the best of the rest, and at a 14-1 for a guy who we know he knows how to win an Xfinity. We know he can win an Xfinity Intermediate, getting that win at Homestead last year. Hill's a guy to watch at 14-1. These ringers don't always win it. Chastain, you never know what can happen. Almirola, like I said, hasn't raced here in an Xfinity car in more than 10 years. Austin Hill at a 14-1, the most intriguing number I could find in the outrights.
Yeah, I don't hate it at all, man. Austin Hill's a guy I was looking at for potentially a placement prop. Might still find a way for him on my car, but he's been consistent here. And the tracks that Austin Hill are generally consistent on, he's generally good at. Like, you know what I mean? Like there's not too many outliers unless he hits like a wall at Phoenix or something, an inside wall at that point. Still bitter. Still bitter.
Yeah. We still don't give him enough flack for that. I feel like that was something else.
Oh, trust me, I'll never forget it. I was on him heavy that day, baby.
Yeah, I feel you there. Shout out Carson Kvapil. I think was around 20-1. I put a sprinkle on that also. It was mostly a vibes bet, just because he almost went out there and won Dover, the other concrete track.
Yeah. So
that's just a vibes bet if you want to throw out some extra there. You've got a pretty juicy pick here, but also probably a much more sensible bet for this.
Yeah. So kind of reminds me of like last week. I'm down all-inclusive resort, first time doing that, down in the Dominican, and all I wanted when I got there was a strawberry daiquiri. And for about 3 days, first 3 days this trip, I drank more strawberry daiquiris than I have my entire life. Hammered them, bro. Hammered them. The one night they didn't settle well, I didn't drink a strawberry daiquiri about the last 4 days there because I was, just getting after them so much. But that was a lot of juice to say. That was a lot of juice drinking those daiquiris. It's a lot of juice here, but I'm going Sam Mayer top 10, minus 175 at ESPN Bet. This is my hammer down bet that this week. I'm going 3 units on it. Sam Mayer finished 5th at Texas and Las Vegas this year. Finished just outside the top 10, P11 last week at Charlotte, but was P4 in stage 1, P6 in stage 2. So he was a top 10 car all day. In Music City specifically, Sam Mayer, 3 for 3 with top 10 finishes, average finish of 6.0. This race is one that I'm expecting to get strung out as long as there's not a ton of cautions. And so I think if Sam Mayer avoids trouble, the number 41 car will be one of the few cars remaining on the lead lap and therefore inside the top 10. I also think the Haas factory team right now, they know that like this is kind of a lost season for everyone but Sam Mayer. Sam Mayer's 3rd in the Xfinity Series standing. Sheldon Creed's all the way back in 10th. Cole Custer's, back there racing with Cody Ware for 35th in the Cup Series. So this is all they got going on. I think they're going to give Sam Mayer rockets the rest of the way. And I think it starts here once again in Nashville.
Yeah, and you're right. If it does get strung out, Almirola, Chastain, Allgaier, top 3, with they're the only ones within 7 seconds of the lead or something like that. Mayer's exactly your kind of guy to be just running 6th and biding your time and see if something happens. You get a late yellow. Pretty juicy bet, but I enjoy it. Like I said,
I tried to parlay it.
Factory team upside.
Yeah, I tried to parlay it. There's a minus 175 top 10 for Austin Hill. I tried to parlay it. They let me like hit the button to place it, and then they said, "Oh, these bets cannot be combined." Really? So that was not. Yeah, that was like a 2-1. I might still lay the top 10 with Austin Hill because I also like that one. But if this does get strung out, maybe we also have to do a little Daniel Dye moonshot for the top 10.
Yeah, the little Daniel Dye and Harrison Burton, the guys you gotta look at most of the weeks here. Certainly pretty solid. As we move on to the Truck Series, I know Rod will like this bet. Shout out Rod wherever you're watching from tonight or wherever you'll look at it later. Tyler Ankrum for the top 5. Like I said, partly keeping with Rod's spirit, partly recognizing that there's just nothing in the outright market with Corey Heim, especially when your second favorite is Kyle Busch, who has had 2 kind of mid-check races. Said after Charlotte, I guess these Spire cars just aren't the KBM rockets that I'm used to. We know that Corey Heim's going to win this race unless one of the 7 things that always happens to Corey Heim happens. I'm not going to bet on it. What I will bet, Tyler Ankrum to finish top 5. This number is usually right around this point, plus 275, plus 285 is usually where it's at, plus 275 on Bet365. Ankrum, P12 at Charlotte, and has been outside of the top 5 2 of the last 3 weeks. We've been keeping up on the stats. Rod's analogy is if you get hit in the face, it's right now this year, it is 7 of 11 times. If I hit you in the face 7 of 11 times, you're going to bet that I'm going to get you on that 8th time out of 12. And I would be faltering on this a little bit, but he's ran a lot worse the last couple of years in general, Tyler Ankrum. But at Nashville, the results have stayed solid. P7, P8, and P5 in the last 3 years here. So hit this top 5 last year when he was top 10 in points, was outside of the top 10 in points, and still was able to earn top 8 finishes here at Nashville. Pretty solid track for him, and I'm betting it's going to be punch number 8 out of 12 to get that number 18 in the top 5 this weekend.
Yeah, I like that a lot, man. Tyler Ankrum is a guy, he's matched up now like against Ty Majeski. Like that's how much the books are thinking of him, but they're still almost laying out there a 3-1 for you to take at Bet365. So can't hate that at all. I would love to bet Corey Heim this week. Curious, I left last week before Truck Series odds got out. What was he to win Charlotte? Because I would have absolutely hammered down on that if I was around.
We'll need the chat to help me out on that one. I know he was definitely probably under plus 200.
Okay.
That's my assumption. In the outright market, I'm not looking that much for the Truck Series because Corey Heim's going to be the favorite every week. If the chat does remember that number, that will be helpful. But
for me in the Truck Series this week, I'm going with a head-to-head matchup. Ben Rhodes, even money at ESPN Bet against Jake Garcia, 2.5 units for me. I think it's just crazy, like how the mighty have fallen. And Ben Rhodes is a plus 100 underdog in this matchup. Rhodes is 2-0 against his now teammate in Garcia at this track with an average finish of 8.0. To Garcia's 10.0 in that span. So Jake has not been a scrub here at Nashville. It's actually been one of his better tracks early in his Truck Series career. Still, we also have Ben Rhodes, who's 2-1 against him at comps so far this season with a high finish of 6 at Texas. Jake Garcia, he's been more consistent this season than Rhodes. But at Nashville last season, Rhodes beat him in average running position, 9.8 to 13.2. Laps inside the top 15, 84.7 to 54%. He was also better in green flag speed late in the run, speed by segment, all of which he was inside the top 8 of the running order for. So I like Ben Rhodes a lot this week. I didn't see what his top 5 number is. Maybe that would be worth a look too, but it just feels too weird, man, to have a multiple time champion here in the Truck Series, Ben Rhodes, an underdog to a guy like Jake Garcia, who a good driver, but not an elite driver yet by any means.
Yeah, hey, the kids are taking over. Corey Heim, like I said, youngest of 15 wins.
Yeah.
We're seeing these young drivers really start to take over here. Ben Rhodes, one of those Truck Series lifers. We know that Thor Sport can kind of go up and down as well. The performance not quite there for Rhodes this season. I do like him there at plus money, though, over Garcia, because Garcia is still working out still working out how to be consistently a top 5 to 10 driver week in, week out that we see from some of these other guys that we just haven't quite seen from Garcia yet. It'll be a fun matchup to watch. I like watching these guys in the Truck Series for sure.
Yeah, let's go ahead and round it out here, Elliot. You have an F1 bet, and I've got an IndyCar bet before we get out here at the buzzer.
Yep, our quick open wheel ones we got here. F1 is in Spain this week, and that race has been won every year from 2016 to present by either Max Verstappen or Lewis Hamilton. And we know that the McLarens are dominant. We established that last week. It's Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri, with Max sprinkling in some. I'm not going with Lewis Hamilton to get back to the top step of the podium, but I do like him for a podium finish at 4-1 over on Bet365. His record at the Spanish GP, like I said, since 2014, he has won 6 times, including 5 in a row, 2017 to 2021, has a P2 or 2 P2s, a P3, a P5, and a crash. And in the last 3 years, his final 3 with Mercedes, P5, P2, and P3. So that's 2 for 3 on this podium. His last 2 races in 2025, P4 and P5. And that was with Ferrari getting some speed back. Of course, Leclerc is going to be your top guy at Monaco, ends up with the P2 there. He won the sprint, of course, in China. Was later DQ'd in the main race. We won't talk about that. He's getting so close to his first podium as a Ferrari driver. And on a track where he's got this kind of pedigree and Ferrari gaining some speed as the weeks go on, give me Lewis Hamilton get back on the podium for what will be a very popular top 3.
Yeah, I've tried to bet Lewis Hamilton so far this season, and it's just kind of come back to bit me because I've thought the same thing. Like he's got to get a podium here soon, and I think you just keep swinging at it. So I like that call a lot. For me in the open wheel market here, I've had more success betting IndyCar, and actually I enjoy watching these races a bit more than F1. So I'm going to stick in that lane and stick to what's working for me this week. The Chevrolet Detroit Grand Prix goes off at 12:30 on Sunday. So I'm going right back to the well with the guy who helped me cash big last week at the Indy 500. I'm going to Alex Palou. He's coming off the biggest win of his career and has now won or finished runner-up in all 5 races so far this season. At Detroit specifically, won this race from the pole, led 74 of 100 laps from the point back in 2023. Also then last year, he started second before having issues that sent him back. I'm going to keep betting the guy who is proving to everyone that he should very much be in Formula One if it weren't likely for Ganassi pulling a fast one a few years ago, which resulted him, of course, in a lawsuit with Aaron McLaren. So, yeah, give me a little Alex Palou here around at the show. Yeah,
that was certainly been rough for sure. And he's been the dominant guy in IndyCar. I don't know if I mentioned this stat earlier, but the gap from P1 to P2 in the standings, Palou to Pato Award, larger than the gap from P2 to P19 in the standings. So Alex Palou has basically already wrapped up that IndyCar championship. Just as we're about wrapped up to the show here, Seth, I'll give you the floor if you want any last second plugs here.
No, I see a couple more questions coming in. If we didn't get to them, guys, make sure you're heading over there to the IBT Racing Family Discord. You can find it inbetweenmedia.com. Link in the episode description. Easiest way to support myself, Elliot, everyone here at IBT. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss a thing. We're here live every week at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time on Thursday night.
Thanks for rolling on down the back road with us. We'll see you next time. Best of luck this weekend in Music City.